So when we understand that there are these early experiences that shape the way that we perceive the world and how we naturally will behave, we can start to take control of our lives. We can start to look at, okay, so what happened that had me feel like I have to behave in this way? Someone's getting in my face, right? If that's happening and you had an experience where maybe you were an older sibling and a younger sibling got in your face when you were younger, and maybe as an infant you witnessed that with your mother and your father. Whatever it was, there's that implicit memory that set the tone for how you respond when that happens now. So whatever the cues are that show up in your environment, whatever sensory experience shows you, this is happening in the environment on an unconscious level, and the body goes, this is what I need to do. You don't actually have to do those things, but we don't consciously recognize where it comes from. And this is why it's important to recognize two basic ways that we perceive the world. As Dan Siegel says, we're both conduits and constructors. That is, we have the ability to be a conduit for sensory experience as it's happening in the present moment. So it's like an antenna that's picking up the radio waves. Okay, I am not that experience that's happening right now. I am perceiving something that's happening right now, and internally, my system is interpreting it in the way that I've been set up to survive. So if you look at the experience that's happening right now, there are two things that are happening simultaneously. Let's call this the bottom-up experience of what's actually happening in the moment and how your body is interpreting what's happening in the moment. Those are very different things that are happening at the exact same time. So often when people are practicing mindfulness or certain spiritual practices where they're trying to learn how to become more present, really what they're doing is they're trying to decipher between what's my implicit memory telling me that this means right now versus what's the pure sensory experience that's happening despite what I might think. So a great example of that is when we walk into a familiar room in the house. Let's say it's the kitchen. Do you ever find yourself just opening the fridge and scanning the fridge, and before you realize it, you've grabbed something and you start eating, or you shut the fridge, go do something else, you open it again. Why are you opening and closing the fridge? Doesn't really make any sense logically, does it? Something in you, your implicit memory says, I need to continue to scan the fridge. Maybe you're uncomfortable emotionally and you're trying to cover up those feelings, and so you want to eat something in order to distract yourself from that. That's a very common experience. In extreme cases, it leads to overeating and dysfunction in all sorts of ways around food. Now, we all have to eat, so this can happen on some level to all human beings, which is why I like to use this example. But what's happening in the moment might actually be something different. There might be a different meaning behind what's being experienced. So you walk into the kitchen, and how might you look at this with what Jon Kabat-Zinn calls beginner's mind? Like a child, like you've never been in that kitchen before. You walk in, perhaps you feel your feet contacting the floor. Beyond that, maybe you notice the heel of one foot and then the forefoot striking. Maybe the toes grip or maybe they don't. And then the other foot. How many discrete degrees of nuance can you notice about just the steps that you're taking into that kitchen? What about the temperature on your skin, the clothing that's on your skin? Is your mouth dry, or is it wet and salivated, or is it somewhere in between? What do you smell in this moment? Do you smell something that is delicious? Do you smell something that's neutral? Do you smell something that's reminding you of something? You ever smell a cologne and all of a sudden you're taken back to childhood of sitting on your dad's lap and he was perhaps guiding you, or maybe it was not a pleasant memory, but that sense of smell will take you right back to that old memory. But wait, right now there's just a smell happening. We're just in the present moment. Okay, that's a discipline. It's the mind, it's the rider calming that horse, accepting the horse, going, yes, I know you're scared, or I know you're overwhelmed. I know you're anxious. I know you're experiencing these emotions and this desire to act from that programmed experience in the body. But what's actually happening now in the present moment? It isn't what happened back then. This is a new moment. With beginner's mind, you can see every moment like it's never happened before. Because guess what? Every moment never has actually happened before. We don't often think about that. It seems like kind of a silly concept. Of course, this moment has never happened before. But do we treat it that way? This is how we are a conduit of experience, what's called the bottom-up experience. Noticing our sensations as they're happening. So this is a really cool concept that I think you'll all appreciate. When you focus in on your sensations, your nervous system starts to calm. Whenever you focus outside of your sensations, that is out of your body, in your mind, you start to elevate your stress response.